Okay, so our number of participants has started to go down, so we're going to get started. Hi, everyone, and thank you for attending Beyond Gender Studies, brought to you by the Gender Studies Department Student Council, or Gender Studies DSC. If you don't know what a DSC does, we are a group of volunteer undergraduate students that are elected and hired to represent and speak on behalf of the undergraduate gender studies student body. We also do some advocacy work at Queen's through our social media outlets and put on events for students, including this one. Before we begin, I did just want to acknowledge that Queen's is situated on Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory, as well as Kingston, which is where I am currently located. It is important for all of us to acknowledge our positionality and the privilege that we have to reside on the lands where we presently are. And I encourage all of you to learn about the history that has brought you to reside on the land you are situated on and seek to understand your place within that history. As a note, this event is being recorded, like I said, and live transcription is also enabled. If you would like to view captions during the presentations, please click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen to turn them on. And if you do have questions throughout the presentation, you can put them in the chat, but there will be time for a Q&A period at the end of the event. So without further ado, we're going to get started. This is just kind of an overview of what to expect this evening. So we're going to have 4 speakers give their presentations. Maybe when I call out the name of the presenter, you can give us a wave on your camera. So we have graduate student Dorcas here with us. We also have undergraduate student Faith, recent graduate and alumni Michaela, and gender studies professor Dr. Karen Lawford. After the speakers, we will just briefly talk about what you can do with the gender studies degree. And like I mentioned, there will be some time allotted at the end to ask questions. So we're going to start off with our first speaker, Dorcas.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Veronica, for the awesome introduction. My name is Dorcas Ochre, and I'm a PhD student in the Department of Gender Studies. So in talking about Beyond Gender Studies, I prepared a short presentation, and it will basically cover my background, that is my academic background, reasons why I enrolled in the Gender Studies program at Queen's, and then I will talk a little bit about my research and some courses I took as a graduate student that has helped me very well. And then I'll talk about what I'm hoping to do with my degree on completion. So my academic background. So I came to Queen's Gender Studies with an undergraduate degree in sociology with psychology from the University of Ghana and a master's degree in development studies from the University of the Western Cape in South Africa. Reasons why I enrolled in the Gender Studies program. Although my undergraduate and master's degrees sharpened my skills on social problems, development strategies, and creating development projects, taking a PhD in gender studies has broadened my knowledge on how to effectively apply methodologies and theories in research and embrace differences among diverse people. I opted for a PhD in gender studies because I wanted to focus my research solely on the challenges of deprived migrant women, and I believe gender studies was the best course to equip me with the necessary tools to achieve this. So I'm just going to talk briefly about my research. So my PhD research is on the economic and social experiences of African migrant women in Cape Town, South Africa. So I became interested in this topic after researching on migrant women in Johannesburg, South Africa for my master's research. So my master's research, what I did was, my school was in Cape Town and I traveled to Johannesburg. It was like a 4-hour flight to research on Ghanaian migrants who work in the informal sector in Johannesburg. So after my research and everything, the result that came out was that a lot of these migrants are women, young women who live in vulnerable conditions, and they need help to make their lives better. So I thought, okay, then why not expand my focus, and instead of just researching on Ghanaian migrants, why not expand it to include migrants from African countries, and why not make it women? So My PhD research is basically focused on women migrants who work in the informal sector in Cape Town. So now on some courses I took in the gender studies program that has helped me, and it's still helping me. So I started my program in winter 2019. I missed the fall term because of, visa issues. So I started in winter 2019, and I took this course, Feminist Methodologies, which is GNDS 802. This course assisted me to develop knowledge in advanced feminist methodologies that I can apply to my research. So in this course, we had weekly responses, which required an application of the weekly readings to, your topic of research. And this was particularly very helpful. I was able to navigate and explore the various feminist methodologies that can be particularly useful to my research. And I have incorporated this knowledge into the development of my proposal and my research as a whole. And another course that was also very useful was GNDS 903, which is applications of gender studies. This course helped me to develop my research within Works for Social Change. I also advanced my knowledge on the institutional context, theories, methods, and effects of applying advanced gender studies research within diverse transformative action. Specifically, the weekly readings as well and responses were very helpful. I was able to create a syllabus from taking this course. So yes, I've created my own syllabus. I have my own course, which I'll be teaching winter next year. It's a 3rd-year course titled Introduction to the Feminization of Migration. So if you are interested in learning about women migrants and the various challenges they face, you can enroll for this course in winter next year. So what am I hoping to do with my degree beyond gender studies? A degree in gender studies basically can open various opportunities for you. Opportunities in teaching, community organizing, law, health, public policy, health policy, social policies, and social development. And I'm hoping to work in social change and activism besides teaching on the completion of my degree. I will not do teaching solely because I believe with a PhD in gender studies, I am equipped to be an agent of social change and transformation. I am looking forward to working with organizations that are actively involved in improving the lives of the vulnerable and at risk. So this is basically what I have to say on the topic beyond gender studies. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dorcas, for talking about all of your research and the cool things that you're hoping to do. And for those of you who are still around next year, definitely recommend taking Dorcas's course in the winter. That sounds great. I will be graduating, so I won't be able to attend it, but it sounds amazing. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right, so our next presentation today is from Faith. So Faith, take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name's Faith. I use she, her pronouns. This is Flynn. He likes to join in on my Zoom and team meetings. So I'm currently a 4th-year gender studies student with a minor in sociology. And I'll be graduating in a few months, which is, in June, which is craziness. And I've actually been accepted into the Masters of Gender Studies program at Queen's starting September 2022. So I'm very excited. So I think I'll just kind of talk about my journey through my undergrad and where I ended up, or how I ended up where I am. So first year, I was undeclared. I was just in the general arts program. I didn't even know what gender studies was. My plan was to go into sociology and psychology. And then I took Genders 120 in first year with Melissa Huteling, and that just changed my life from there. I really found my passion in gender studies, and from there, I also decided to join a lot of clubs. So in my first year, I joined the Gender Studies Department Student Council. And that's actually where I met Michaela, who's another speaker here tonight. And I kind of took a took a risk. I was a first year who did not know really anything within gender studies, but I just knew I was passionate about it. So I went to my interview, and the co-presidents at the time took a chance on me. They created a first year representative position for me. And again, that really led me on the path that I am on today. So again, in second year, I became the secretary of the Gender Studies Student Council. So I got involved that way. I was also, I started as a sexpert at the Sexual Health Resource Center. Again, I would suggest getting involved in clubs. It's fun, and it'll expand your interests. Like if you had told like high school Faith that she'd be like the assistant director of the Sexual Health Resource Center, she would have been like, no way. But it's really helped me find who I am and find my passions. So through the Sexual Health Resource Center, I've also discovered the passion that I have for learning about and teaching sexual health education that, you know, rejects the heteronormative cisgender lens and educates students on pleasure, consent, gender-based violence, STIs, pregnancy, and really, you know, rejects the fear-based approach and celebrates sex, and you know, make sure that students know that it's pleasurable and, you know how to do it safely. So continuing on my third and fourth year, I was still involved in the Gender Studies Student Council and the SHRC. In my third year, I was the co-president of the Gender Studies Student Council. And then I decided to forgo my time with the DSC for this year. But that's when Veronica and Rebecca took on the roles of co-president, so it was in such great hands. And then also last year and this year, I've been the assistant director, co-assistant director of the Sexual Health Resource Center. So again, it's really just helped build my experience within the area and really narrowed down where my interests are. I've also gotten involved with the Student Experience Office's Bystander Intervention program and consent culture workshop. So that as well has helped build my skills and just, again, really solidified that gender studies is the place for me. So like I said, I have been accepted into the Masters of Gender Studies program at Queen's. So my thesis will center around why we need comprehensive and inclusive sex education that's taught from an intersectional, feminist, anti-colonial, anti-racist, queer, positive lens. And it'll focus on students in Ontario or high schools in Ontario. And basically the Ontario sex ed curriculum is pretty comprehensive when you look at it, but certain things are being left out. Teachers aren't teaching what needs to be taught. They're just picking out what they agree with and teaching that. So I want to dive a bit deeper into that. In terms of my plans after my master's, I don't know. And that's okay that I don't know. It's okay not to have like a set plan. And that's coming from someone that like needs to have a plan. So the master's program is 1 year, so September to September. And then after that, I do hope to get involved somehow with sexual health education. My dream job is to like go into different high schools and be the designated sexual health educator and train others on how to do that. But yeah, that's the plan for right now. I'm also enrolled in the sexual and gender diversity certificate program as well. So at the end with the Q&A, if anyone has like any questions on stuff to do with that, definitely feel free to reach out. Hopefully all of that made sense and I wasn't rambling too much, but I do love this department so much. So yeah, feel free at the end to ask any questions.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Faith. I definitely agree with you. I did not know what gender studies was until I actually enrolled in the degree. So definitely agree with you. But yeah, thanks so much for telling us about how you got involved and how that really impacted your time at Queen's. Thank you so much. So our third speaker is Michaela. So Michaela, take it away.
Thank you so much. Would I actually be able to share a short slide deck, Veronica, if possible? Thank you. So hello, everyone. Let me figure this out. Share my slides. There we go. Hello. Thanks so much for having me. It's so exciting to be able to speak to a DSA event. I dearly miss it. There we go. Share. Perfect. I think we should be. Thank you. I see the nods and action. So hello, this is me with my dinosaur slides. I don't typically get to use them. Like was already mentioned, I completed my master's in gender studies in 2020, and then I also completed my undergraduate degree in 2019 in gender studies. I was one of the few who went into my first year at Queen's wanting to major in gender studies. I am from Kingston, so I had some connections to the department. I knew about the program and was really interested. I also completed the certificate in sexual and gender diversity, and listening to Faith speak, you'll see a few similarities in our story as I go along. As well, I also completed the undergraduate certificate in law. I was one of I think the first cohort to complete that certificate program. So it kind of sits in the bunch. And so when I say that I came in wanting to major in gender studies, it didn't look too hot for me at the beginning, I will admit. I received a 0 on my first ever quiz in Gender Studies 120. I was very overwhelmed by university. I was not prepared for the jump in academic expectations, and I was also not good at asking for help. So with that being said, I learned how to use my resources. I was able to chat with professors. I became brave and finally spoke to my TAs and was able to get the assistance I needed. So first year for me focused a lot on learning how to be a student and kind of figuring out where I wanted to progress with my degree, but I did feel left out because a lot of students we know at Queen's are very involved. We have this culture of doing a bunch of extracurriculars, a bunch of additional work. So that was something I wanted to get into slowly. And did over the years. So this very much a throwback picture of me is the summer before second year. So in between first and second year, I volunteered at the Summer Orientation to Academics and Resources, which is SOAR, an event that Veronica I know is working on this summer. And in the past, I've also worked on with the Student Experience Office, which I'll get to in a few slides. So that was kind of my first toes in the water of student affairs and being able to share my experience. I really wanted to show up as a gender studies student. When I also started volunteering with the DSC, I was very passionate to go to majors nights or prospective student nights to be able to share what I was learning, to be able to talk to other students that really didn't know what happened beyond gender studies. I really didn't know what was going to happen for me beyond the program either, but I was really happy to find community in it at the time. I also volunteered with the Sexual Health Resource Center beginning in second year. I volunteered for a couple of years and then ended up running for the position of volunteer coordinator, which was my first real experience of supervising a large volunteer team of about 50 volunteers, and of course dealing with subject matter that might be sensitive, right? Like Faith mentioned different topics about sex and relationships and pleasure. So that was a really, really great experience for me, and showed me that I want to continue to work with kind of a peer education model in my career. In my fourth year, I came across the position of Sexual Violence and Bystander Awareness Student Coordinator within the Division of Student Affairs. And to be honest with you, it was a very long interview process. It was something I nearly declined my second interview because I was overwhelmed. have a very fond memory of calling my mom before class, having a little bit of a cry because I was so stressed, received support from her, from my partner, ended up doing it. And I'm very glad that I accepted that position because I do still work in student affairs today in a different role. But that was the first position that really showed me the interaction of my degree and a paid job and my interests all coming together. So that was a bit of undergrad experience. And then what is next? So I, like many of Queen's students, was interested in law school. I was specifically interested in fertility law, which is not an area of law that a lot of people know about or kind of go out searching for. I actually found out about fertility law through the Law 692 course, which is feminist legal studies offered through the Faculty of Law, but I was able to take as part of my undergraduate degree. In that series of presentations, I was able to listen to Angela Cameron speak, who is a lawyer, but also an academic who looks at surrogacy practice in Canada. And this was something I was very, very interested in, potentially interested in practicing. However, I did not get into Queen's Law, and that's okay. I put all my eggs in one basket. I put them in, and to be honest, I did not have the grades or the LSAT score to be able to compete. As I wrote the LSAT multiple times, I kind of felt my heart pulling in a different direction. I had already applied and been accepted to the Gender Studies Master of Arts program, but I felt this pressure that I said I wanted to go to law school, so I paid the money to write the LSAT multiple times, paid to apply to the school, and didn't get in. And it's something I don't think we talk enough about is these kinds of rejections, but that is okay. So moving forward, I did still practice on my topic of interest in my master's. So I accepted the offer and I ended up working with Dr. Karen Lawford, who is here today. I also spent the summer between my undergrad and master's coordinating SOAR for the Student Experience Office. So this is a photo from later from another orientation event, but it was the full circle moment from when I volunteered in first year. And I was also really relieved to not be in another 4 years of school. I have lots of friends that attended law school and I am happy for them and they are happy with their choice. But I just really want to talk about kind of that not a last minute decision, but changing your mind, and that's okay. It's okay to not want what you wanted originally. And now my master's. So the title of my major research paper was Surrogacy in Canada, Critical Perspectives on Labor and Compensation. So I looked into how Canada has a forced altruistic model of surrogacy where commercial surrogacy is illegal. So you cannot compensate a surrogate beyond reimbursable expenses related to pregnancy or the carrying of the surrogate child. And I also argued it from a labor perspective, saying that this is a lot of work that we see people doing, primarily women doing. Why isn't there an option for compensation? However, there are not a lot of jobs in that field, and I know I did not want to go on to do a PhD after I completed my master's. So kind of what I took out of that was I looked and I examined the intersection of policy and lived experience with surrogates and the arguments, the guidelines that surround surrogacy. I was also able to take a law course and a Master of Public Health course during my master's degree that counted towards my course requirement, which was a really neat opportunity. Kind of got the law experience, kind of got that Master's of Public Health experience in those two courses. I also really enjoyed my TA-ship, but for different reasons than you might think. I learned I did not want to teach. Classroom management is something that I still very much am working on, but I gained instructing experience as well as marking and working more with academics. For example, I made some multiple choice questions up to make extra TA hours when I wasn't teaching an additional course. And now, as we'll talk about, I work in a field where I assist students who take multiple choice quizzes. So going forward to lockdown, things were shifted a bit for me. So like Faith mentioned, usually the master's program runs from September to September, but I actually finished up in December. So still a 2020 graduate, but I took the extra semester with Dr. Lawford's advice to be able to breathe, focus on what was happening on my life during a pandemic. As well, I began working full-time for the Student Experience Office, which is I worked full-time for the Student Experience Office that summer, and then transitioned into my role with Student Academic Success Services. And you'll see I have a history of having long job titles that I cannot remember because sometimes they're just a bunch of tasks strung together, but I am appreciative of the privilege I have to be able to work in these roles. And the second photo, there's one photo of me hosting a newly admitted students event, beginning of lockdown, very professional setup. And then the other one is from a zine that actually never ended up being published, but was capturing my experience as a master's student during the pandemic. And then what I do now, so I work as the Outreach and Peer Programs Coordinator for Student Academic Success Services. I actually work pretty close with Veronica, who is a team lead for us in the peer programs. And with this, I'm able to apply my gender studies degree in a lot of ways that I didn't expect to be honest. I have a decent amount of autonomy over the programming that I'm able to develop and facilitate. So I make sure that the pedagogy that inspires it has my gender studies or feminist roots, and I'm able to also work on different training modules, be able to interact with students, see the other areas where students are being impacted in regard to their academics, because we know, although you're a student, you're also a person. You might be an employee, a volunteer, looking at other things that are happening and being able to support academic success from a larger approach than just study skills and still focusing on that peer model. I think I mentioned I supervised around 50 students with the Sexual Health Resource Center. I'm now supervising a team of around 100, which can relate to my last point of managing my imposter syndrome. With that, I am one of the few people in my office that does not have a PhD. I am one of the younger people in my office. And so with that, of course, comes some unique challenges, but also a lot of really cool opportunities. Also, this past summer, I was able to develop and host a workshop series for youth diversion that centered around safer sex practices from a peer model as well. And that's where I am now, a lot of years wrapped up in a nutshell. And as well, that is my email. If anyone ever wants to chat about gender studies, I am more than happy to talk. Thank you. And I'll try to stop sharing my screen.
Awesome. Thanks, Michaela, so much for sharing your story and talking about vulnerability and how, sometimes things don't work out in our favor, but that's okay. So yeah, thank you so much. So finally, we have our last speaker today, which is a gender studies professor, Dr. Karen Lawford.
So there we go. I'm unmuted. Thank you for inviting me. It's so nice to see Veronica, Faith, and Michaela. Everyone looks so healthy and well, and how lucky we are to be here. So yes, I'm here at Gender Studies. I've been here almost 4 years. I'm a registered midwife. I don't practice, so I'm registered in Ontario, and I'm a Anishinaabe midwife. So I'm a Anishinaabe from the Treaty 3 area, and I'm an enrolled member with the Lac Seul First Nation. Let's see, my background is my first degree is in chemistry and environmental science. I have a double major honors degree, and then I have a Bachelor of Health Science from McMaster, and that's where I did my midwifery training. And I was a practicing midwife in the Hamilton area on the east side, which is a very lower income, lower socioeconomic status with a large immigrant, like newly immigrated people. Very, very rewarding work. it was not what I thought it would be. I thought that as an Anishinaabe person, I would be able to provide care on reserves, and I couldn't. And this is because there are various healthcare systems in our country that provide care to some groups of people differently. So, in fact, new immigrants typically will receive federal health care until they receive their provincial or territorial health care cards. So they're then part of that province or territory. First Nations on reserve receive federal health care. Inuit, RCMP, active members of the military service, federal inmates receive federal health care. And that's something actually I didn't know. And so I was really devastated because midwifery services are the gold standard of care globally. Most of the babies in the world are delivered by midwives, but Canada and the United States seem to have a really strange obsession and fixation on providing what is termed low risk pregnancies through specialists such as usually obstetricians. Even family doctors are not doing deliveries as much. And of course, there's hierarchies in medicine in which often midwives are not even recognized or denigrated, and it feels really bad, to be honest. So I was pretty devastated to learn that I was just really contributing to the status quo and the maintenance and the provision of services to basically white, middle class, university educated women. And I was devastated also came in the form of rage, and because it's not fair. So I left midwifery and I wanted to learn more. So I started to work for a national Indigenous organization and quickly found out that wasn't for me. So I began to work for Health Canada at the federal level to work on actually the midwifery file. And of course, quickly found out that, you know, this is not something they're really interested in implementing. And here we are, I'm going to say 15, but I don't know my math right now. 15 years later, we're still not really seeing any movement at the federal level to implement Indigenous midwifery services and even registered midwifery services on reserve. In fact, almost everyone is leaving their community to give birth in Southern hospitals, usually level 3 hospitals like Kingston Health Sciences Center, regardless of their health status. So this is something that is a policy. And that's actually what I did my master's degree on. So I was a little bit, I guess I would say, messed up, disillusioned. That's another nice way of saying it, about where I thought my expertise was, because even though midwives are globally understood to be leaders in obstetrical health, maternity care, reproductive health, maternal child health, here in Canada, we're not at all respected. In fact, there are some provinces and territories that don't recognize midwives at all. And even here in Kingston, I don't think it's a welcoming environment. But to be fair, it's not really any different anywhere else in this province. So as a person that embodied, I guess, hatred almost from care providers, I then decided to go into what I thought would be an easy degree because I'm really smart, as you can tell, haha. And I chose gender studies, and wouldn't you know it, I can't write a sentence. So that's funny. That was an awkward laugh, but it's really true. I'm just telling you the plain truth here. Because I had come from 2 science degrees, I thought I would be fine, and it turns out I'm not fine. So I had to really work on my writing. Also, it turns out that really there was really nobody, unless I went into law, to understand things. And luckily I found someone pretty much on my last person I could possibly ask for supervision was willing to take a chance on supervising me, because my research, while it is about gender, is mainly about maternity care, so healthcare service policy, and understanding then the legal, basically the constitutional positioning of maternity services. And at that time, now this seems like 100 years ago, we actually had a very ultra conservative, right-wing, evangelical Christian prime minister for 2 full terms, 8 years. And my stepfather at the time, well, I'll just say stepfather, but oh yes, hi Michaela. the way that it was going is everyone was losing their funding. So we're seeing a lot of loss of funding with this conservative government of basically everything. So I said, what should I do? And he recommended I get a PhD because, you know, they're so easy. I'm totally sarcasm. It's not easy. Again, in the same department, but my professor in gender studies telling me there's no such thing as Indigenous feminist theories or methodologies. And that was devastating. That actually was in my master's. And I actually sort of developed almost a disdain for the degree that I was getting. But I can't think of any other place that I could have actually investigated the things I wanted to. And that to me is something that I am so grateful for. So yes, there were individuals who are really racist, let's be, you know, to be fair, to be honest, really anti-Indigenous, really not uplifting Indigenous people, students, professors, intellectual thought. You know, we are like when I hear the land acknowledgement spoken, but then people turn around and denigrate Indigenous people. I'm like, you are so wildly incongruent with what you say and what you do. And that's actually the type of thinking that gender studies, I can, you know, work through those conversations. So I am considered an expert in my topic area, but it is through the application of what I've learned in gender studies and the way that it's interdisciplinary, or rather I've made my way that I engage with gender studies as an interdisciplinary project. And that's something that I really am grateful for. So, you know, I've learned a lot about myself and also about the flexibility of a lot of disciplines within the academy. I think I probably could have done something similar through geography, but I just didn't know. And it's not that I want to say that, you know, one discipline's better than the other, but there's lots of really great disciplines and you're going to find your place. Just like I heard Faith find her place and Veronica, you know, sometimes you change, just like, and Michaela, the way that you bravely, and I know it's brave though, to be vulnerable, like sometimes, and you shared your rejection letter. Like, and that's something I think that also gender studies can give you, not necessarily because of the discipline, but because of the way students uplift each other, is that kindness and generosity of the vulnerability of sometimes failure. So I know I went a little bit over. Yes, I got a timer here. You are welcome to ask me any question at all as any student has taken a class with me. If it's too personal, I will say pass. I do consider my role at the university primarily when it's semesters, when fall and winter, students always come first. And then even during the spring and summer semesters, while I'm doing a lot of research, trying to assist where I can. So yes, I'll leave it there. And again, miigwech so much, Veronica, Faith, and Michaela, and actually Dorcas was one of my TAs. So it's like we have a little circle here of trust. So miigwech.
Thank you so much, Karen. It was really great to hear about how things that you were passionate about and things that you experienced really encouraged you to do more research and seek out more information. But yeah, thank you so much. So that is it for our speakers. And thank you so much to all of you for your lovely words. I know Dorcas had to step out, but thanks to all of you. Before we wrap things up, I did kind of want to point out this pretty broad list of what you can do with the Gender Studies degree. This is actually just taken from the Gender Studies Department website, so if you want to look more at it, you can. But as you can see, the job prospects for a Gender Studies degree is pretty wide, even as evidenced by our speakers today. Now, one thing I did want to particularly point out is this equity and inclusion initiatives part right here. Myself, and I know a lot of other gender studies students agree that what kind of really sets us apart on a lot of like with our degree is our knowledge of equity and inclusion. And it's something that I have personally noticed is desired on a lot of job applications, and it's not necessarily a skill or knowledge that some other degrees might give you. So I would encourage all of you to, you know, to make yourself stand out when applying to jobs or graduate school programs by emphasizing that you do have that knowledge. I think that's a pretty unique aspect of our degree. Yes, Karen.
At the federal level, and that's the only one I can really speak to because my partner works as a public servant at the federal level. And the government of Canada is always looking for people who have an understanding of what gender is. You can look at, it's called Women and Gender Equity now. It used to be called Status of Women Canada. It's not their approach to understanding gender and sexuality. I really don't agree with, but I have the background to understand and explain why I don't agree with it. So, you might think, you know what, when you look at this, this is literally everything. In fact, my understanding is that all federal programs must include gender, awareness of gender, and the inclusion of gender in the analysis of it. So you would be surprised how much you know, even though I'm guessing some of you think you haven't learned much because it seems so obvious to you. Students in first year that take the first year gender studies course generally know more than most public servants who have never taken a gender studies course. It doesn't matter the level. It doesn't matter if they're a policy analyst at the level 8, which is the highest, or a director or a deputy minister, or even the ministers themselves. And I mean, just take a look at our federal ministers. Some of them I'm like, what? You don't know what you're talking. So I want to encourage you to really use the language within a posting to build up yourself within your application. You will always have a job with a gender studies degree. Everybody needs to know this. Even like the engineering students who take classes with me, they are so far ahead of. So for example, what does engineering have to do, say, with Indigenous studies? And the reason I bring this up, I was just on a panel. Well, who designs those bridges or those dams that interfere with people who live on reserve or flood their lands? It's engineers. You might think, well, what does gender have to do with fishing rights? Well, what is the role of women and two-spirit people when it comes to fishing by certain nations? And there you need to consider then, are the fishing licenses taking into account the roles and responsibilities of, say, certain fish with that of, say, a midwife? Because some fish are actually used as medicine when people are sick or as a replacement for breast milk for people who live in the bush and they have nothing. That's old school. So please never disregard your understanding of gender studies at any level. Even if you've taken only one course, for example, you know so much. So and if you ever have questions, about how to phrase things, send me an email. I'm happy to help you out.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's definitely inspiring. I feel inspired now. Let's gotta start applying to jobs. All right, well, that is it for the content that we have prepared today. We do have some time left over for questions and or discussion. If people would like, you can raise your hand to speak, or you can type your question in the chat, or if any of our speakers want to bring up any points. But otherwise, if you would like to follow the Gender Studies DSC on Instagram, our handle is up there on the screen. We will have a link in our bio to the recording of this webinar soon, so you can check it out there. But thank you so much to our amazing speakers today, and to all of you for attending the event. And Carly, I think, had a question. So Carly, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, my voice is a little raspy. I did just get over a cold. I just wanted to share that I am the incoming president of, or co-president of the department, the Gender Studies Department Student Council. So I will be like the person to go to next semester if you do have any questions related to that. But I just wanted to also share like what I hope to do with my degree. So I'm currently a third year gender studies student, and I also, much like most of you, came into this with absolutely no idea what gender studies was until I took 125 in my first year. But with mine, I'm actually hoping to be a kindergarten teacher. And I always kind of had that ambition of being a teacher before I even knew about gender studies. But a really interesting course I was lucky enough to take this year was Feminist Pedagogies with Professor Hotaling. It's a really amazing course, and we talk a lot about implementing gender studies within like the classroom. And I think it's really interesting because that was a course that truly showed me like how diverse gender studies really is and how it impacts things that we didn't even realize it does. Like we talk a lot about like queering the classroom and like sharing how the smallest parts of your job are actually like where gender studies comes in the most. and creating like an inclusive environment. And so like that course left me like really, really excited for the future. Because although like I always knew the versatility of a gender studies degree, it was really cool to see like how it really is in every single section of our learning, and also showed me like the courses I've taken in the past in other departments, how they weren't as welcoming and weren't as like accommodating to like the diversity that does come into the classroom. And so I just wanted to share that for my like ambitions for the future and everything. So yeah, I just want to say thank you too to everyone. Like everything you guys shared was so amazing and interesting, and truly like even showed me more than I knew before. So yeah.
Thanks, Carly. And yeah, we're more than happy to pass on the reins of the Gender Studies Department Student Council to you. We do have a question in the chat. Do you have any advice for students graduating with a 3-year BA in Gender Studies? So Karen, I think you want to answer that?
Yes. So this question actually came up from a student who's taking one of my classes this year, because she's just sort of done. She's like, I just need to graduate and move along because this is draining. And of course, the pandemic is one thing, and there's just so much going on. And I'm like, and so what she did is I actually connected her again to my partner. I guess I can give him a name, David, because there is a lot of concern that if you have a 3-year degree and not an honors degree, that you won't get hired. And that's not true. That's not true at all. So what I just think, you have a degree, you have a set of skills, and I think you need to act like it and believe in yourself. And this is called stepping up. And it's not stepping up for anyone else but yourself. So, and sometimes people were kind of like, oh, that's a failure because you didn't get the full 4. And that's not true at all. That's not true at all. And again, there is a huge need for understanding gender and sexuality in almost all of the federal public service. I imagine would be the same for the provincial and municipal services as well. But think of things like, I'm just going to ask, Steve, do you speak more than one language? You can just put it in the chat. No, okay. And that's fine too, is sometimes if you have more than one language, remember that most people in the world generally speak 2 or 3 languages, you know, working at the United Nations, but there are other jobs that you can work at. One of the students I'm teaching right now, she's a master's student story, and she studies waste management. And it's like, well, what does that have to do with gender? Actually, did you know that most people who recycle are actually women? And I don't know if there's any information on anyone else but the dichotomies of male, female. But again, that's something to give attention to. And so how, as waste managers, do they need to then direct their work or their efforts to divert garbage into, say, other recyclings or compost? And so this is just one example of the type of skill set that you have that you may not know. The other thing is, some of your managers, say you got a job at the federal level, they will actually pay you, they'll pay for your, I guess they'll pay you too. So right, in another job my partner had in fisheries, one of the new workers came and she had an undergrad and she wanted to get an MBA. So he actually paid for her MBA and she got 1 day off a week to do it. So even though there might be some monotony, that's not even a word. I combine monotony. Can someone say that? Monotony?
Yeah, I think it's monotony.
And with monogamy, I just combine those words, random. The monotony, sometimes the repetitiousness of federal, of any kind of public service, there are actually so many ways that you can move yourself up into the things that you want, not just in the job, but in your education. So they'll pay for things like for you to finish, if that's really important for you, to finish your honors degree. And remember, the pay is good, the benefits are good. And I think a lot of places are still going to be going with working remotely because of the job satisfaction. People tend to work more when they're at home. Yes, says Michaela. And it also cuts back the expenses for those organizations because they don't have to run those buildings and have security and this and that and that. So I think you have a lot of options, Steve. It's just you're going to have to step into your role of you. And that's something that only you can do. But if you ever need help with, say, a cover letter or something, please send me a message again with anything at all, because not anything at all, but things related to this topic, because I just never want you to think this is a wasted degree. It's not. It has so much. You learn to write and analyze and critique and examine and reflect. Like, they're all huge major things that, you know, people that don't have a degree don't have. And not that everyone needs a degree, to be fair. Okay. So I hope that uplifts you, Steve, and encourages you on your life path.
Yeah, thanks for answering that. Thank you. Does anybody else have any additional questions or things they want to chat about? I'll give it a few seconds. All right. So thank you again so much, everybody, for speaking today or coming. And yeah, if you want to give us a follow, give us a follow. You can also watch the recording afterwards. But thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night.